The radio crackled with static and panic. Alpha Team, this is command. You are surrounded. I repeat, you are completely surrounded. Hostiles closing in from all directions. ETA to your position. 4 minutes. Lieutenant Marcus Chen pressed his back against the crumbling concrete wall, his breath coming in short, controlled bursts, sweat mixed with dust on his face. Around him, 6 men from his reconnaissance unit gripped their weapons, eyes darting between the narrow alleyways of the abandoned industrial complex. They were trapped. No extraction, no backup, no way out. 4 minutes, Chen whispered to himself, checking his magazine. 18 rounds left, not nearly enough. Sergeant Jake Rodriguez crawled up beside him, his tactical vest torn from their desperate sprint through the compound. LT, we got maybe 30 hostiles converging. They got the high ground, they got the numbers, and they got us pinned like rats in a cage. Chen didn't respond immediately. His mind raced through scenarios, each one ending the same way. A firefight they couldn't win, casualties his team couldn't afford. This was supposed to be a simple reconnaissance mission in the remote training sector. Intelligence gathering, in and out, clean. But intelligence had been wrong, dead wrong. The compound wasn't abandoned. It was an active hostile training facility, and Alpha Team had walked right into the heart of it. Sir, whispered Corporal Danny Hayes from the corner, his young face pale despite months of training. I count visual on at least 15 from the east. They're moving in formation. These guys aren't amateurs. Chen swore under his breath. His team was elite, hand-picked rangers with combined combat experience spanning 3 continents. But elite didn't matter when you were outnumbered 5-1 with no cover and dwindling ammunition. The commander's voice crackled again. Alpha Team, hold your position. We're working on extraction, but what? Chen cut in, his voice tight. Sir, we don't have time for but. We need air support. We need it now, or you're sending body bags to collect us. A pause. Too long of a pause. Then, air support is 20 minutes out. Weather conditions are 20 minutes. We'll be dead in 10. Another voice cut through the channel. Calm, steady, female. Alpha Team, this is Overwatch. I have visual on your position. Chen froze. Overwatch? Command, who the hell is Overwatch? Alpha Team, the woman's voice continued, ignoring his question. I count 32 hostiles. 16 approaching from your east, 9 from the north, 7 circling to cut off your 6. You've got a window, very small, but it's there. Who is this? Chen demanded. But even as he spoke, he felt something shift in the air. A presence. Not threatening, but watchful. Someone who's about to save your life, Lieutenant, but I need you to trust me, and I need you to move exactly when I tell you to. Rodriguez exchanged a glance with Chen. LT? Chen's jaw clenched. Trust a voice he'd never heard? A call sign command hadn't briefed them on? In the middle of a life-or-death situation? But what choice did he have? What do you need us to do? He said quietly into his comm. Stay exactly where you are. Don't move, don't fire, don't even breathe loud. And then what? A beat of silence. Then I take the shot. 3 miles away, on a ridge that didn't officially exist on any military map, Staff Sergeant Riley Morgan adjusted her position behind the Barrett M82A1 sniper rifle. The wind was a problem. 12 miles per hour from the northeast, gusting unpredictably. Temperature, 94 degrees. Humidity, 67%. Distance to target, 2,847 meters, just over 1 3/4 miles. At this range, she wasn't just fighting physics, she was negotiating with it. Through her scope, she watched Alpha Team huddled in their death trap. She'd been tracking them for 40 minutes, ever since Command had quietly, very quietly, requested her insertion into the area. No official orders, no paper trail, just a phone call and coordinates. You're our insurance policy, Morgan, her CO had said. If things go sideways, you make sure our people come home. Things had gone sideways. Riley exhaled slowly, her finger resting gently outside the trigger guard. Not yet. Timing was everything. One shot too early, and she'd reveal her position before achieving the psychological impact she needed. One shot too late, and Alpha Team would engage, turning this into a bloodbath nobody would walk away from. She studied the hostile positions through her scope. 32 combatants, just like she'd told Chen. They moved with military precision, former soldiers most likely. Disciplined, dangerous. But they had one critical flaw. They didn't know she was there. Riley's spotter, Corporal Emma Vasquez, lay beside her with a rangefinder and wind meter. "Wind's shifting," Emma whispered. "Hold for 3 seconds." "Copy." Below, the hostiles tightened their noose. The leader, a tall man with a tactical vest and an AK-47, raised his hand, the signal to close in. "Alpha Team," Riley said softly into her comm. "On my mark, you're going to hear a sound. When you do, you drop flat. You understand? Flat. Don't look up. Don't question it. Just do it." "What kind of sound?" Chen asked, tension cracking his voice. "The sound of your second chance." The hostile leader lowered his hand. His men began their advance. 15 seconds until they reached firing range on Alpha Team's position. Riley's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The world narrowed to the reticle, the target, the calculation. Distance, wind, elevation, Coriolis effect, barometric pressure. A dozen variables solving themselves in the background of her trained mind. 10 seconds. She centered the crosshairs on the hostile leader's radio antenna, a small metallic piece protruding from his vest. Not a kill shot. Not yet. This was about sending a message. 5 seconds. Emma whispered, "Wind stable. Green light." Riley's finger moved to the trigger. The weight felt familiar, comforting. She'd taken this shot 1,000 times in training, 100 times in the field, but never at this distance, never with this much riding on it. 3 seconds. The hostile leader opened his mouth to shout the order. 2 seconds. Riley's world became mathematics and breath and absolute stillness. 1 second. She squeezed. The Barrett M82A1 roared. The sound didn't reach Alpha Team immediately. Sound travels slower than bullets at this range. For a fraction of a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the hostile leader's radio exploded in a shower of sparks and shattered plastic. The man stumbled backward, his hand flying to his chest, eyes wide with shock. He wasn't hit. The bullet had missed his body by millimeters, threading the needle between his arm and torso to destroy only the radio. An impossible shot. A shot that shouldn't exist. Every hostile froze, their heads swiveling, trying to identify where the shot came from. But the sound was still echoing off the mountains, bouncing, distorting, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Now!" Riley's voice cut through Alpha Team's comm. "Drop flat!" Chen didn't hesitate. "Down! Everyone down!" The 7 Rangers hit the dirt as Riley fired again. Another hostile's weapon shattered in his hands. The barrel split clean through. The man yelped, dropping the ruined rifle, staring at it in disbelief. Panic rippled through the hostile formation. Riley fired a 3rd time. A water canteen on another combatant's belt exploded, soaking him. The man dove for cover, shouting in confusion. "What the hell?" Rodriguez breathed, his face pressed against the dirt. "Who is that?" Riley's voice came through calm and measured. "Alpha Team, in 15 seconds the hostiles are going to break formation. When they do, you move west. There's a drainage culvert 40 meters from your position. You'll have cover there until extraction arrives." "How do you—" Chen started. 14 seconds. I'd start getting ready to run if I were you." Chen looked at his men. They stared back, bewildered, terrified, hopeful. Another shot cracked through the air. This time Riley took out the hostile team's communication array mounted on a nearby vehicle. Sparks flew. The device went dead. The hostiles were cut off. No communication, no coordination, and someone, somewhere, was picking them apart with surgical precision. "Fall back!" the hostile leader finally screamed. "Fall back!" The formation shattered. "Go!" Riley commanded. Alpha Team moved. Chen led the sprint, his legs pumping, his team close behind. Bullets kicked up dust behind them, disorganized, panicked fire from hostiles who'd lost all tactical cohesion. But Riley was already working. She fired. A hostile who'd gotten close to cutting off Alpha Team's route took a round through his weapon's receiver. The gun jammed. He dove for cover. She fired again. Another hostile's scope shattered. She wasn't killing. She was controlling. Every shot was a message. You are outmatched. You are outskilled. You are done. Alpha Team reached the culvert and dropped into it, gasping. "We're in cover," Chen reported, his chest heaving. "Overwatch, I don't know who you are, but—" "Save it, Lieutenant," Riley interrupted, already packing up her rifle. "Extraction's inbound. You'll be fine." "Wait, where are you? I want to thank you in person." "I want to—" "You'll get your chance," Riley said, a slight smile touching her lips as she and Emma began their tactical withdrawal from the ridge. "But not today." She switched frequencies to command. "Overwatch to base. Package is secure. Alpha Team will be ready for pickup in 90 seconds. "Confirmed, Overwatch. Excellent work. Return to base for debrief." Riley slung her rifle and started down the ridge, moving like a shadow through the terrain she'd studied for hours before insertion. Behind her, 3 miles away, Alpha Team huddled in their culvert, alive because of shots they never saw coming. Chen stared at his radio, then at his team. Did that just happen? Hayes laughed, a shaky, relieved sound. "LT, I don't know what just happened, but somebody up there just pulled off the impossible." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Whoever Overwatch is, she just saved 7 lives without taking one. That's, He trailed off, shaking his head. "That's military precision," Chen finished quietly. "That's what happens when skill meets discipline meets courage." "Think we'll ever find out who she is?" Hayes asked. Chen listened to the distant sound of the extraction helicopter approaching. "Yeah," he said. "Something tells me this isn't the last we'll hear about Overwatch." Riley Morgan stripped out of her ghillie suit back at the operations tent, her movements methodical and calm. Emma Vasquez grinned at her. "You know you just became a legend, right? Nobody makes those shots. Nobody." Riley shrugged, checking her rifle before securing it in its case. "Somebody had to. 3-kilometer shots, threading the needle, disabling equipment without casualties, breaking an entire hostile formation with 6 rounds. Morgan, that's not standard operating procedure. That's myth-making stuff." "It's mathematics," Riley corrected, though a small smile played at her lips. "Wind, distance, patience, same as always." "Uh-huh. And what about the part where you turned 32 hostiles into scared rabbits?" Riley's smile widened just slightly. "That's psychology." Emma laughed and shook her head. "Girl, you are something else." But Riley's mind was already moving forward. This mission was done, but she knew how these things worked. Word would spread. Command would talk. The Rangers she'd saved would ask questions. And eventually, they'd want to meet the woman who'd pulled off the impossible. That was fine. Riley didn't do this for recognition. She did it because when her country trained her, equipped her, and trusted her with one of the most demanding roles in the military, she'd made a promise. To be the best. To be ready. To be the difference between life and death when it mattered most. Today, she'd kept that promise. "Come on," Riley said to Emma, grabbing her gear. "Let's get debriefed and get some food. I'm starving." As they walked toward the command tent, the sun beginning to set over the mountains, Riley didn't know that 3 miles away, Lieutenant Chen was already writing his after-action report. A report that would ask one question over and over. Who is Overwatch? A question that would eventually lead to answers that would change everything. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, Riley Morgan was just a soldier who'd done her job, and done it flawlessly. Lieutenant Marcus Chen sat in the debriefing room at Fort Benning, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Across from him, Colonel James Patterson reviewed the after-action report for the 3rd time, his expression unreadable. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Patterson finally said, setting the report down. "You and your team were completely surrounded by hostile forces, outnumbered 5-1, no air support, no backup. And then a sniper you'd never heard of, using a call sign not in our database, took 6 shots from nearly 3 kilometers away and disabled the enemy force without a single casualty." "Yes, sir," Chen replied evenly. "And you never saw this sniper? Never met her? Have no idea who she actually is?" "Correct, sir." Patterson leaned back in his chair, studying Chen's face for any sign of embellishment or exaggeration. He found none. Chen was a decorated ranger, not prone to fantasy or drama. If he said it happened, it happened. The shots she made, Patterson continued. According to your report, they weren't just accurate. They were surgical. Destroying equipment, not people. Breaking enemy cohesion through precision intimidation rather than firepower. It was the most extraordinary display of marksmanship I've ever witnessed, sir. And I didn't even see it. I just saw the results. Patterson picked up another folder, this one thinner, stamped with higher classification markings. Command confirms there was a sniper team in the area. Officially, they were conducting routine training exercises. He said those last words with obvious skepticism. But when I tried to get more information about this Overwatch call sign, I hit a wall. A very intentional wall. Chen leaned forward. Sir, with respect, my team and I are alive because of whoever that was. We deserve to know who saved our lives. I agree, Lieutenant. Which is why I've been authorized to tell you this much, and only this much. Patterson opened the classified folder. Staff Sergeant Riley Morgan, Army Sniper School graduate, top of her class, multiple decorations, specializes in long-range precision work. And according to her file, she's been requested by name for unconventional assignments. Unconventional how? The kind where plausible deniability matters. The kind where success means nobody ever knows you were there. Patterson closed the folder. She's good, Chen, frighteningly good, and Command likes to keep their best assets quiet. Chen processed this. So she's real. She's Army, and she's not supposed to exist in any official capacity. I didn't say that. But you did not say it, sir. Patterson almost smiled. Almost. You're dismissed, Lieutenant. And Chen, if anyone asks about Overwatch, you stick to your report. Unknown friendly asset. Long-range support. Mission success. That's all. Understood, sir. Chen stood, then hesitated. Sir, one more question. Will I ever get the chance to thank her? Patterson looked at him for a long moment. If she wants you to, I imagine you will. Morgan doesn't strike me as someone who does anything by accident. 2 days later, Riley Morgan stood in the sniper range at Fort Benning, coaching a group of advanced students through long-range wind calculations. The wind isn't your enemy, she told them, walking behind the line of prone shooters. It's just another variable. You don't fight it. You understand it, respect it, and account for it. A young specialist named Torres squinted through his scope. Sergeant Morgan, at this distance, how do you even know if your wind call is right before you shoot? You don't, Riley answered simply. You make the best calculation you can with the data available, and then you trust your training. Confidence comes from repetition. You do this enough times, your body learns what your mind is calculating. Is it true you made a 3-kilometer shot in combat? Another student asked. Riley's expression didn't change. Where'd you hear that? It's all over base, Sergeant. They're saying some female sniper saved a ranger team that was surrounded, took out an entire enemy force without killing anyone, made impossible shots that... Rumors, Riley interrupted calmly. Soldiers love to tell stories. You should focus on what's in front of you, not what you hear in the chow hall. But even as she said it, she knew the stories were spreading. It had been inevitable. Alpha Team had survived an impossible situation, and soldiers talked. They always talked. Line up your shots, she instructed. Show me what you've learned. The students returned their focus to their targets. Riley walked the line, making small adjustments. An elbow here, a breathing rhythm there. The kind of tiny corrections that separated good shooters from great ones. She'd been teaching at the sniper school for 3 months between deployments. It was quieter work than field operations, but no less important. Every student she trained might someday face a situation where a single shot mattered, where lives hung in the balance. She wanted them ready. Sergeant Morgan? Riley turned to find Corporal Emma Vasquez approaching with a slight smirk on her face. What? Riley asked. You're wanted at the command building. Colonel Patterson wants to see you. Riley's eyes narrowed slightly. Did he say why? Nope. But I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that you're apparently the base's worst-kept secret right now. Riley sighed. Great. Colonel Patterson's office was exactly what Riley expected. Efficient, organized, decorated with the kind of military memorabilia that spoke of a long career and hard-won respect. "Staff Sergeant Morgan reporting as ordered, sir," she said, standing at attention. Patterson gestured to a chair. "Sit, Morgan. This isn't a formal reprimand. With respect, sir, that's not particularly reassuring." Patterson chuckled. "No, I suppose it isn't." He pulled out a folder, the same one he'd shown Chen days earlier. "You've caused quite a stir. You know that, right?" "I completed my mission, sir. Alpha Team extracted safely. No casualties on either side. Mission success." "Mission success," Patterson repeated. "Yes, technically that's accurate. But you and I both know what you did out there wasn't just mission success. It was exceptional. The kind of exceptional that gets people talking. The kind of exceptional that makes soldiers want to shake your hand and buy you drinks and tell everyone they know about the miracle sniper who saved 7 Rangers." Riley remained silent, waiting. "The problem," Patterson continued, "is that your work is supposed to be quiet, invisible. You're supposed to be the guardian angel nobody knows exists. But now Lieutenant Chen wants to meet you. His whole team wants to meet you. Hell, half the Rangers on this base want to meet you. You've become a story, Morgan. And stories have a way of getting complicated. Sir, I don't control what people say. No, you don't. But you do control what you do next." Patterson leaned forward. "I'm going to give you 2 options. Option 1, you stay in your current rotation. Keep teaching. Keep training. Let this story fade into background noise. It'll become another base legend that nobody can quite verify. And option 2? Option 2 is that you meet Lieutenant Chen and his team. You let them thank you. You put a face to the legend. You own what you did." Patterson paused. "And then you accept a new assignment that's been proposed specifically because of what happened out there." Riley's interest sharpened. "What kind of assignment?" Patterson slid a document across the desk. "Joint Task Force, multi-service, specialized operations requiring precision asset deployment. You'd be working with Rangers, SEALs, Recon Marines, the best from every branch. Your role would be exactly what you did for Alpha Team. Overwatch, Guardian Angel, the shot nobody sees coming." Riley scanned the document. Her pulse quickened despite her controlled exterior. This was the kind of work she'd trained for. The kind of mission where her skills could make the biggest difference. "Why me specifically?" she asked. "Because what you did wasn't just technical skill, Morgan. It was judgment. You had the shot to kill 32 hostiles. You could have turned that compound into a shooting gallery. But you didn't. You chose precision over firepower, control over chaos. You saved American lives without taking others unnecessarily. That kind of judgment, combined with your skill level, is exactly what this task force needs." Riley looked up from the document. "And if I choose option 1, just let this fade away? Then you continue being an excellent teacher, and we find someone else for the task force. No harm, no foul. Your record stays clean, your work stays quiet, and Riley Morgan remains the sniper instructor who's really good at her job." It was a genuine choice. Patterson wasn't pressuring her. He was simply laying out the paths. Riley thought about the 3 miles of distance between her ridge and Alpha Team's desperate position. She thought about Chen's voice on the radio, tight with fear and fading hope. She thought about the mathematics of wind and distance and the moment she'd squeeze the trigger knowing that 7 men's lives depended on her being perfect. She thought about doing that again and again, becoming the invisible shield for soldiers who'd never know her name. "When would I meet Alpha Team?" she asked quietly. Patterson smiled. "How about tomorrow? They're still on base. I can arrange it." "And the new assignment?" "Starts in 2 weeks. You'd have time to transition, brief your replacement here, get your affairs in order." Riley was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked Patterson in the eye. "I'll meet Alpha Team tomorrow, sir, and I'll take the assignment." Patterson nodded, unsurprised. "I thought you might." "Dismissed, Sergeant." "And Morgan? What you did out there, it was more than exceptional. It was exemplary. The Army is lucky to have you." "Thank you, sir." As Riley left the office, her mind was already racing forward, meeting the team she'd saved, accepting a new mission that would push her skills to the absolute limit, stepping out of the shadows, if only briefly, to own what she'd accomplished. She'd spent her career being invisible. Maybe it was time to be seen. Just for a moment. Just long enough to show 7 Rangers that the person who'd saved their lives was real. The next morning, Riley stood outside the Ranger briefing room, adjusting her dress uniform one final time. Emma stood beside her, grinning like a proud parent. "You nervous?" "No," Riley lied. "Uh-huh, sure. That's why you've checked your ribbons 3 times in the last minute." Riley shot her a look. "I'm fine. You're about to meet a bunch of highly trained warriors who think you're basically a mythical being. It's okay to be a little nervous." Before Riley could respond, the door opened. Colonel Patterson stepped out, followed by Lieutenant Chen and his team. Chen stopped when he saw her. His eyes widened slightly, not with disappointment, but with recognition, with understanding. "Staff Sergeant Morgan," Patterson said formally. "This is Lieutenant Chen and Alpha Team. Gentlemen, this is Overwatch." For a moment, nobody moved. The Rangers stared at Riley. This woman, young, composed, not physically imposing in any Hollywood sense, and tried to reconcile her with the impossible shots that had saved their lives. Then Chen stepped forward and extended his hand. "Sergeant Morgan," he said, his voice thick with emotion he didn't bother hiding. "I don't have words adequate to thank you for what you did. You saved 7 lives. My life. My men's lives. We owe you everything." Riley shook his hand firmly. "You don't owe me anything, Lieutenant. You'd have done the same for me. With respect, Sergeant, I couldn't have. Nobody could have. Those shots." He shook his head. "They weren't just skill. They were art." Sergeant Rodriguez stepped up next, his handshake equally firm. "Ma'am, I've been a Ranger for 8 years. I've worked with snipers from every branch. What you did wasn't just long-range shooting. It was surgical. It was brilliant. It was my job," Riley interrupted gently but firmly, "which I'm honored to do." One by one, the Alpha Team members shook her hand, their faces showing various degrees of awe, respect, and gratitude. Corporal Hayes was last, the youngest of the group. When he shook Riley's hand, his voice cracked slightly. "Sergeant, I'm 23 years old. I thought I was going to die that day. I really did. And then you just..." He couldn't finish. Riley's expression softened just slightly. "You've got a lot of years ahead of you, Corporal. A lot of good work to do. Don't waste a single one." "I won't, ma'am. I promise." Patterson cleared his throat. "I'll give you all a few minutes. Conference room is yours." He stepped away, leaving Riley alone with the 7 men she'd saved. Chen gestured to the room. "Would you join us, Sergeant? We'd like to hear about it, about how you did what you did." Riley hesitated, then nodded. For a few minutes, they settled around the conference table, and Riley found herself surrounded by Rangers who looked at her like she'd personally pulled them from a burning building. "The shots," Rodriguez said. "How did you even acquire targets at that distance? The conditions? The variables?" Riley pulled out her phone and opened a photo of her ballistic calculation notebook. "Math," she said simply, showing them pages of equations, wind formulas, distance calculations. "It's all math and observation. I'd been studying the terrain for hours before you arrived. I knew the wind patterns, the temperature gradients, the elevation changes. When you got pinned, I already had my data. I just needed to apply it." "But the precision," Hayes said. "You hit a radio antenna, a weapon receiver. You threaded bullets through gaps most people can't even see." "Repetition," Riley answered. "I've taken tens of thousands of shots, maybe hundreds of thousands. Your body learns, your mind calculates, but your muscle memory executes. At a certain point, the rifle becomes an extension of yourself." Chen leaned forward. "Why didn't you take kill shots?" "You could have. You had the angle, the skill, the justification." This was the question Riley had been expecting, the one that mattered most. "Because taking a life should never be the first option," she said quietly. "It should be the last. Those hostiles weren't foreign combatants. They were contractors, probably former military, working in a gray area. If I could save your lives without ending theirs, that was the play to make. That takes discipline," Chen said. under pressure, with everything on the line, choosing the harder path. That's what separates soldiers from warriors, Riley replied. Anyone can pull a trigger. It takes discipline to pull it at exactly the right moment, for exactly the right reason, with exactly the right outcome. The room was quiet for a moment, the weight of her words settling over them. Rodriguez finally broke the silence. "What's next for you, Sergeant?" Riley glanced at the door, thinking about Patterson's folder, the new assignment, the path forward. "More of the same," she said. "Different missions, same purpose." "Will we work with you again?" Hayes asked hopefully. "Maybe," Riley said with a small smile. "The military's smaller than people think." Paths cross. Chen stood and the rest of the team followed. "Sergeant Morgan, whatever comes next for you, know this. Alpha Team will always have your back. You need anything, anytime, anywhere. You call. We'll be there." The other Rangers nodded their agreement. Riley stood as well, moved despite herself. "I appreciate that, Lieutenant, truly." They shook hands again, and as Riley left the conference room, she heard Hayes say to Rodriguez, "Dude, she's real. Overwatch is actually real." Emma was waiting in the hallway, still grinning. "How'd it go?" "They thanked me. We talked. It was good." "Just good? Morgan, you're a living legend to those guys." "I'm a staff sergeant who did her job," Riley corrected. But she couldn't quite suppress the small smile that played at her lips. "Let's go. I have a class to teach." As they walked toward the range, Riley allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. She'd stepped out of the shadows. She'd owned her work. She'd looked 7 men in the eye and accepted their gratitude. And now it was time to step back into the shadows and get ready for whatever came next. Because that was the job. That was who Riley Morgan was. The guardian angel in the scope. The shot nobody saw coming. The difference between life and death. And she was just getting started. 2 weeks later, Riley Morgan sat in a classified briefing room at an undisclosed military installation, surrounded by the kind of soldiers who didn't appear in official documentation. The room held 12 operators, 4 Navy SEALs, 3 Marine Recon specialists, 2 Delta Force operatives, 1 Green Beret, and Riley herself. They represented the absolute peak of American special operations capability. Every person in this room had been handpicked for skills that went beyond ordinary excellence. At the front stood Colonel Patterson and a woman Riley didn't recognize. Tall, lean, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades making life or death decisions. "Good morning," the woman said, her voice carrying the kind of authority that didn't need volume. "I'm Director Sarah Martinez, Joint Special Operations Command. What you're about to hear is classified at the highest levels. Nothing discussed in this room leaves this room. Clear?" A chorus of acknowledgments. Martinez clicked a remote, and the screen behind her lit up with satellite imagery. "For the past 18 months, we've been tracking an international criminal network that specializes in arms trafficking, specifically high-grade military equipment stolen from various conflicts worldwide. This isn't your typical black market operation. This is sophisticated, well-funded, and connected to several hostile state actors." She clicked again. New images appeared: weapons caches, shipping manifests, intercepted communications. 3 weeks ago, we received intelligence that this network is planning a major transaction. They're moving a shipment of advanced anti-aircraft systems, stolen from a compromised NATO facility, to buyers we cannot allow to obtain them. If these systems reach their destination, American aircraft and pilots will be at significantly increased risk in multiple theaters of operation. A SEAL named Lieutenant Commander Brett Hawkins raised his hand. "What's the mission profile?" "Interdiction and recovery," Martinez answered. "The shipment is being moved through a series of handoffs across Eastern Europe. Our objective is to intercept the final transfer, recover the systems, and dismantle the network's operational capacity in that region." "Rules of engagement?" asked one of the Delta operators, Captain Michael Torres. "Minimize casualties where possible. This is a recovery operation, not an assault. We want the equipment and the intelligence more than we want bodies. But make no mistake, you're authorized to defend yourselves and complete the mission by any means necessary." Riley studied the satellite imagery, her tactical mind already working through angles, distances, sight lines. If this was going to be a recovery operation with minimal casualties, they'd need precision, control, exactly the kind of work she'd done for Alpha Team, but on a larger scale. Your team lead for this operation, Martinez continued, is Staff Sergeant Riley Morgan. Every head in the room turned toward Riley. She kept her expression neutral, though internally she was calculating rapidly. Leading a team of operators this elite, on a mission this sensitive, was a vote of confidence that came with enormous pressure. Sergeant Morgan, Martinez said, you've been selected as team lead because your recent performance demonstrated exactly the kind of judgment and precision this mission requires. You'll have tactical command in the field. These operators are here to execute your plan. Questions? Hawkins studied Riley with frank curiosity. No disrespect, Sergeant, but I've been leading SEAL teams for 12 years. Why am I taking orders from a sniper? It wasn't aggressive, just direct. Riley appreciated that. Because this mission isn't about breaching and clearing, Commander, Riley answered calmly. It's about surgical precision and tactical patience. It's about seeing the whole battlefield and making decisions that achieve the objective without unnecessary escalation. That's what I do. And you think you can coordinate all of us effectively? I think every person in this room is exceptional at their specialty. My job isn't to tell you how to do your job. It's to put you in positions where your skills create mission success. You want to kick down doors and clear rooms? Outstanding. I'll make sure you're kicking down the right doors at the right time. Delta wants to run silent infiltration? Perfect. I'll provide overwatch and intel so you have every advantage. Everyone does what they do best, but we do it as a synchronized unit. That's how we win. Torres nodded slowly, a hint of approval in his eyes. I can work with that. Martinez pulled up a new image, a compound in a remote mountainous region. This is your target. Former industrial facility, now repurposed as a transfer point. Intel suggests the handoff will occur here in 72 hours. You'll insert 24 hours prior, establish positions, observe, and execute when the shipment arrives. What's the hostile count? Asked Gunnery Sergeant Maria Santos, one of the Marine Recon specialists. Unknown. Estimates range from 15 to 30 combatants. Mix of security contractors and network operators. Expect military training and modern equipment. Air support? Riley asked. Limited. You'll have a single helo for extraction, but air superiority isn't guaranteed in this region. The assumption is that you're operating independently once you're on the ground. Riley absorbed this. Independent operations meant everything depended on preparation, positioning, and execution. No safety net. No backup plan except the one they created themselves. We have 72 hours to plan and prep, Riley said, standing and moving to the imagery. I want to use every minute of it. Commander Hawkins, you and your SEALs will handle water approach if we need an alternate exfil route. Captain Torres, Delta will run point on the compound infiltration. Gunny Santos, your recon team will establish forward observation positions. I'll coordinate from Overwatch and provide precision support as needed. She pointed to different sections of the satellite imagery as she spoke, her mind already constructing the operations framework. We run full mission rehearsals starting tomorrow. I want everyone familiar with every other team's role. If someone goes down, anyone should be able to step into any position. We cross-train, we over-prepare, and we execute flawlessly. The operators exchanged glances. This wasn't the uncertain leadership of someone uncomfortable with command. This was confidence built on competence. Questions? Riley asked. The Green Beret, Master Sergeant David Chen, no relation to the Ranger Lieutenant, raised his hand. What's our contingency if the handoff doesn't happen at the expected location? Good question. We'll have drones providing real-time tracking on the shipment. If it diverts, we adapt. I'll maintain communication with JSOC throughout the operation. We stay flexible, we stay informed, and we stay ready to pivot. Martinez watched Riley take command of the room with quiet satisfaction. This was exactly why she'd recommended Morgan for team lead. Technical skill was common among elite operators. The ability to coordinate multiple specialty teams under pressure while maintaining tactical clarity. That was rare. You have your orders, Martinez said. Wheels up in 70 hours. Make them count. For the next 3 days, Riley lived and breathed the mission. She studied satellite imagery until she could navigate the target compound in her sleep. She reviewed intelligence reports, looking for patterns in the network's operations. She cross-referenced weather forecasts, moon phases, and terrain elevation maps. But more than that, she got to know her team. She spent hours with Hawkins and his SEALs, learning their communication protocols, understanding how they moved, how they thought. She ran scenarios with Torres and the Delta operators, finding the optimal approach vectors, the best breach points, the quickest exfil routes. She worked with Gunny Santos and the Recon Marines, identifying the perfect observation positions, calculating fields of fire, establishing backup positions in case primary sites were compromised. And through it all, she earned their respect not by demanding it, but by demonstrating that she understood what each team brought to the mission and valued their expertise. On the second night of preparation, Riley sat in the Tactical Operations Center, reviewing drone footage of the compound for the 100th time. Torres walked in with 2 cups of coffee and set one in front of her. "You sleep, Morgan?" he asked, settling into the chair beside her. "Occasionally," Riley said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Thanks for this." "No problem." Torres studied the screen with her. "You see something we missed?" "No, just making sure I haven't missed anything. This compound has good defensible positions, clear sight lines, limited approach vectors. Whoever chose it knew what they were doing." "That's why we're bringing you," Torres said. "You think like a sniper. You see the battlefield the way they'll see it." Riley nodded slowly. "That's the idea. If I can anticipate their defensive positions, we can avoid them. If I can identify their weak points, we can exploit them." "The team's impressed, you know," Torres said after a moment. "We've worked with a lot of commanders. Most of them either try too hard to prove themselves or coast on their rank. You're just doing the work, treating us like professionals, respecting the process." "Because you are professionals," Riley replied. "The best. My job is to put that talent in the right place at the right time. Everything else is just details." Torres smiled. "You're going to do fine out there, Morgan. More than fine." "We'll do fine," Riley corrected. "This isn't about me. It's about 12 operators functioning as a single unit. That's how we win." 70 hours after the initial briefing, Riley and her team loaded into a C-17 transport aircraft for the flight to their insertion point. The interior of the aircraft was dimly lit, filled with the quiet sounds of soldiers making final preparations, checking weapons, reviewing maps, running through mental rehearsals. Riley sat near the rear, her Barrett M82A1 secured in its case beside her. Across from her, Hawkins was reviewing waterborne approach procedures with his SEAL team. To her left, Santos was briefing her Recon Marines on observation protocols. Everyone was focused. Everyone was ready. Riley closed her eyes and ran through the mission timeline one more time. H-24 hours, insert via helicopter drop 3 kilometers from target compound. Move to positions under cover of darkness. H-12 hours, establish observation posts. Begin surveillance of compound activity. H-0, expected arrival of shipment. Observe handoff procedures. Identify key personnel and cargo location. H+1, execute interdiction. Disable security, secure cargo, extract with minimal combat engagement. H+2, exfil to extraction point, recovery and return to base. Simple on paper, complex in execution. 1,000 variables could shift the plan. Riley's job was to adapt to those shifts while keeping the team synchronized and the mission on track. 30 minutes to drop zone, the loadmaster announced. Riley opened her eyes and keyed her comm. "All teams, final equipment check. Sound off when ready." "SEAL team ready," Hawkins reported. "Delta ready," Torres confirmed. "Recon ready," Santos added. "Green Beret ready," Chen said. Riley stood and moved to the center of the aircraft where everyone could see her. 12 sets of eyes locked onto her. "Here's what I know about every person on this aircraft," she said, her voice steady and clear. "You're the best at what you do. You've trained for years to get to this level. You've earned your place on this team through skill, dedication, and sacrifice." She paused, making eye contact with each operator. "Tonight, we're going to walk into a complex situation, and we're going to control it. Not through overwhelming force, not through blind aggression, but through precision, discipline, and trust. Trust in your training. Trust in your teammates. Trust in the plan. We're going to recover that equipment. We're going to protect American lives by keeping those systems out of enemy hands. And we're going to do it the right way, professionally, effectively, and with honor. I'm honored to lead this team. Let's go show them what American Special Operations looks like when it's done right. A murmur of acknowledgement rippled through the team. No hoorah, no dramatic speeches in return, just professional soldiers acknowledging their leader and their mission. 10 minutes, the loadmaster called. Riley returned to her seat and began her final gear check. Rifle, secured, ammunition, loaded, radio, tested, secondary weapon, ready, medical kit, stocked. Everything was exactly where it needed to be, because that's what this came down to. Preparation, precision, discipline. The aircraft's rear ramp began to lower, cold night air rushing in. Below them, darkness stretched across mountainous terrain. Somewhere in that darkness was their target. 2 minutes. The team stood, forming up in jump order. Riley took her position, feeling the weight of her gear, the anticipation of the mission ahead. 1 minute. She thought briefly of Alpha Team, of Lieutenant Chen's voice on that radio, tight with fear. She thought of the mathematical beauty of that 3-kilometer shot. She thought of every training session, every qualification course, every moment that had led to this one. 30 seconds. The green light flashed. Go! 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 And Riley Morgan stepped out into the darkness, her team following, dropping toward a mission that would test everything they were and everything they'd trained to become. The Guardian Protocol was active, and 12 angels of death were about to show the world what precision really meant. Chapter 4. The Shot That Ended It. 4,500 words. The compound looked different through a night vision scope. Riley lay in her overwatch position on a ridge 800 meters from the target facility, her Barrett M82A1 resting on its bipod, her breathing slow and controlled. Beside her, her spotter, a Marine recon specialist named Corporal Jake Williams, scanned the compound through high-powered optics. Count 12 hostiles visible, Williams whispered. 4 on roving patrol, 3 static positions on the perimeter, 5 inside the main structure. Copy, Riley murmured, marking each position on her mental map of the compound. 23 hours had passed since insertion. The team was in position. The shipment was due to arrive within the hour. She keyed her comm. Overwatch to all teams. Status check. SEAL team in position. Northwater approach secured, Hawkins reported. Delta holding at primary breach point, ready to execute, Torres confirmed. Recon observation posts Alpha and Bravo established. Full compound visibility, Santos added. Green Beret ready to move on your mark, Chen said. Perfect. Everyone exactly where they needed to be. Riley had spent the past 23 hours watching the compound, learning its rhythms, understanding its security patterns. The guards changed shift every 6 hours. They conducted perimeter patrols every 90 minutes. The interior lighting followed a predictable pattern. More importantly, she'd identified the compound's defensive positions, exactly where a sniper would set up to protect the facility. 2 positions on the roof, 1 in the western guard tower, 1 overlooking the main approach road, and she had solutions for all of them. Movement on the access road, Williams said suddenly. Vehicle approaching. Looks like convoy. 3 trucks. Heavy transport. Riley shifted her scope to the road. Sure enough, 3 large cargo trucks were winding their way up the mountain pass toward the compound. The shipment had arrived. All teams, target has arrived. Maintain positions. We observe the handoff, confirm the cargo, then execute on my mark. The trucks rolled through the compound gates. Hostile personnel emerged from the buildings, more than they'd expected. Riley counted quickly. Revised hostile count. 28 combatants, she reported. Repeat, 28 hostiles. Higher than estimated. That changes the math, Torres said grimly. Delta can still execute, but it'll be tighter. Understood, Riley replied, her mind already adjusting the plan. 28 hostiles didn't change the mission, but it did mean precision was even more critical. They couldn't afford a protracted firefight with those numbers. The trucks parked in the compound's central courtyard. Men began unloading crates. large military-grade containers exactly matching the description of the anti-aircraft systems they were looking for. Positive ID on the cargo, Riley confirmed. 4 missile launcher systems, multiple ammunition crates. That's our target. A man emerged from the main building, tall, wearing expensive tactical gear, moving with the confidence of someone in command. He approached the trucks and began inspecting the cargo with another figure, presumably the buyer. We have leadership on site, Riley noted. Central courtyard, inspecting the weapons. This is our window. Once they complete the handoff and disperse that cargo, recovery becomes significantly harder. What's the play, Overwatch? Hawkins asked. Riley's mind ran through scenarios at lightning speed. 28 hostiles, 4 critical cargo items, multiple buildings providing cover for enemy forces, 1 team of 12 operators. The conventional approach would be overwhelming force. Hit them hard and fast, suppress resistance, secure the cargo in the chaos. It would work, but it would also mean casualties. Hostile casualties. Maybe operator casualties. Definitely a loud, violent confrontation that would compromise their exit. But Riley hadn't been chosen for conventional approaches. Here's what we're doing, she said, her voice calm and clear. We disable their ability to coordinate before we reveal our presence. I'll take out their communication systems and leadership's radios. Delta, you infiltrate during the confusion and secure the cargo. SEALs, you block their exfil routes. Make sure no vehicles leave. Recon, you provide precision fire support for Delta's movement. Green Beret, you secure our extraction point and prepare the vehicles. What about the hostiles? Santos asked. We give them the option to surrender. We broadcast on their frequency. We explain the situation. We offer them a way out without bloodshed. Most contractors aren't willing to die for a paycheck. If they choose to fight, we defend ourselves. But we give them the choice. It was risky, unconventional. It required perfect execution and a bet that human psychology would favor survival over resistance. But it was the right call. I like it, Torres said after a moment. It's clean, professional, and if it works, we're ghosts, in and out without turning this into a war zone. All teams, final equipment check. We execute in 90 seconds. Riley settled behind her rifle, her eye to the scope. She'd already calculated the shots. 3 communication arrays, 4 leadership radios, 2 generators powering their security systems. 9 shots, 9 targets, all within a 15-second window. It was the kind of shooting that required absolute perfection. Riley's breathing slowed, her heart rate dropped. The world narrowed to mathematics and muscle memory and the absolute certainty that she could make these shots. 60 seconds, she whispered. Williams fed her the data. Wind 3 miles per hour from the east, temperature 52 degrees, humidity 30%, range 800 meters on primary targets. Riley adjusted her scope's elevation. The calculations solved themselves in the background of her trained mind. She'd done this 1,000 times. She could do it 1,000 more. 30 seconds. All teams stand by. Her crosshairs settled on the first communication array, a satellite dish mounted on the main building's roof. 15 seconds. Her finger moved to the trigger. The familiar weight. The certainty of what came next. 10 seconds. The hostile leadership continued inspecting the weapons, unaware that in moments their entire operation would collapse. 5. Riley's world became breath and trigger and absolute stillness. Execute. She fired. The satellite dish exploded in a shower of sparks and shattered components. Before the hostiles could even register what happened, Riley had already acquired her second target, a radio tower on the compound's western edge. She fired again. The tower crumpled, its communications equipment destroyed. Third shot, the backup generator powering their security cameras, disabled. Fourth shot, a radio in the hands of the hostile leader. The device shattered, and the man stumbled backward, shocked but unharmed. Fifth shot, another leader's communication device, gone. Riley worked through her targets with mechanical precision. 9 shots in 12 seconds, each one hitting exactly where intended, dismantling the hostiles' ability to coordinate or call for backup. Then she switched her comm to the hostiles' frequency. Intelligence had provided their tactical channel. Attention all personnel in the compound. she said in clear, calm English. "You are surrounded by United States Special Operations Forces. Your communications are disabled. Your escape routes are blocked. Your leadership's radios are destroyed. You cannot coordinate. You cannot call for help. You cannot escape." She paused, letting that sink in. "You have one option. Drop your weapons, put your hands in the air, and lie down on the ground. You will not be harmed. You will be detained, processed, and turned over to appropriate authorities. But you will live." Another pause. "If you choose to fight, you will be engaging operators who have every advantage: training, equipment, positioning, and numbers. You will lose. Some of you will die. All of you will fail." Riley's voice remained steady, almost gentle. "You have 60 seconds to make your choice. After that, we come in. Choose wisely." In the compound courtyard, complete chaos had erupted. The hostile leader, a former Russian Spetsnaz operator named Viktor Kozlov, stared at the shattered radio in his hand, trying to process what had just happened. 9 shots in 12 seconds, 9 precision hits, no casualties, but complete tactical domination. His men were shouting, confused, weapons raised but with no clear target to engage. The shots had come from somewhere, but where? The mountains, the ridges, the sounds had echoed everywhere, making source identification impossible. And then that voice, calm, professional, American, telling them they were surrounded, outmatched, and offering them a way out. Kozlov had been in combat for 20 years. He knew the sound of fear in a voice. He also knew the sound of absolute confidence. That woman's voice had been the latter. "Victor," his second-in-command shouted in Russian. "What do we do?" Kozlov looked around at his men. They were contractors, professionals, yes, but professionals who fought for money, not ideology. They'd taken this job because the pay was excellent and the risk seemed manageable. But the risk had just become very unmanageable. "How many do you think are out there?" his second asked. Kozlov thought about those 9 shots, the precision, the targeting, the psychological warfare. "Enough," he said quietly. "More than enough." He looked at the weapons they'd been paid to protect. Advanced anti-aircraft systems worth millions. His fee for this operation was $100,000. Good money, but not worth dying for. He made his decision. "Drop your weapons," Kozlov ordered in Russian. Then in English, "All personnel, lower your weapons, stand down." "Victor, we can fight." "Against what?" Kozlov interrupted sharply. "We can't see them. We can't communicate. They've already demonstrated they can hit anything they want. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Instead, they're offering us a way out. I'm taking it." He raised his hands and began walking toward the center of the courtyard, away from his weapon. For a moment, none of his men moved. Then, one by one, they began following his lead. Weapons clattered to the ground. Hands rose in surrender. The buyer, an intermediary from a hostile state, looked around in panic, then ran for one of the trucks, clearly attempting escape. Riley's voice came through the radio again. Man running toward the eastern vehicle. "You have 3 seconds to stop or I will stop you." The man kept running. Riley adjusted her aim and fired. The truck's engine block exploded in a shower of metal and fluid. The vehicle died instantly, its escape value reduced to 0. The man stopped running, raised his hands, and slowly knelt on the ground. "Smart choice," Riley said. "All teams, hostiles are surrendering," Riley reported. "Delta, move in and secure the cargo. SEALs, detain all personnel. Recon, maintain overwatch. Green Beret, bring up the extraction vehicles." The operation moved like clockwork. Torres and his Delta operators emerged from the shadows, moving with swift efficiency to secure the missile systems and ammunition crates. Within 3 minutes, the cargo was loaded onto their extraction vehicles. Hawkins and the SEALs rounded up the hostile personnel, flex cuffing them and checking them for weapons. 28 men, all detained without a single shot, fired in anger after Riley's initial disabling shots. Santos and her recon Marines maintained security, their weapons ready but unnecessary. The hostiles had chosen surrender, and that choice held. Riley remained in overwatch, her scope scanning for any unexpected threats, any hostile who might decide to play hero. But none came. The contractor's survival instinct had proven stronger than their professional obligation. Overwatch, this is Delta. Cargo is secured. 4 missile launcher systems, 12 ammunition crates, all accounted for. We're ready for exfil. Copy, Delta. SEAL team, status on detainees? 28 hostiles secured and searched. No resistance. We've got the leadership separated for intelligence processing. Outstanding. Green Beret, extraction vehicles ready? Affirmative, Overwatch. Standing by at the compound entrance. Riley performed one final scan of the compound, then began breaking down her rifle. All teams, mission accomplished. Execute extraction protocol. We're going home. As she and Williams moved from their Overwatch position, Riley allowed herself a small smile. 0 casualties, full cargo recovery, complete mission success. And they'd done it the right way, with precision, discipline, and the absolute minimum force necessary. 12 hours later, Riley sat in the debriefing room, exhausted but satisfied. Director Martinez reviewed the mission report with obvious approval. Sergeant Morgan, your team recovered 4 advanced anti-aircraft systems, detained 28 hostile personnel, including key network leadership, and accomplished the mission without firing a single shot in direct combat. This is exceptional work. It was a team effort, ma'am, Riley said. Every operator performed flawlessly. Yes, they did. Because you positioned them flawlessly. Martinez leaned forward. Do you understand what you've demonstrated here? Not just technical skill, but tactical leadership. The ability to see a complex situation and find the solution that achieves every objective with minimum cost. With respect, ma'am, that's what we're trained to do. No, Martinez corrected gently. That's what you're trained to do. Most operators are trained to win. You're trained to win right. There's a difference. Riley absorbed this quietly. The question now, Martinez continued, is what comes next for you. You could return to teaching, you could continue with this joint task force, or... She slid a folder across the table. You could accept a promotion and a new role developing doctrine for precision operations across all special operations branches. Riley opened the folder. The position would mean more responsibility, more impact, more opportunity to shape how American special operations approached complex situations. But it would also mean less field work, less time behind a rifle, less time being the guardian angel in the scope. Can I think about it? Riley asked. Take all the time you need, Martinez said. You've earned it. That evening, Riley found herself on the base firing range, alone, running through basic marksmanship drills. It was therapeutic. The simple mechanics of shooting, the familiar routine, the satisfaction of tight shot groups forming on the target downrange. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Lieutenant Chen approaching, now also stationed at this base for advanced training. Sergeant Morgan, he said with a smile. Mind some company? Not at all, Lieutenant. Here to shoot? Here to thank you again, actually. Word travels fast in the special operations community. I heard what you did on that interdiction mission. 28 hostiles neutralized without a single casualty. That's the same medicine you gave Alpha Team. Precision over firepower. Control over chaos. Riley shrugged. It's just problem solving. Finding the solution that works. It's more than that, Chen insisted. It's choosing the harder path because it's the right path. A lot of operators would have gone in loud, accepted the casualties, called it a necessary cost of the mission. But you don't accept that. You find the way to win without unnecessary cost. He paused, then added, That's why people like me are alive. That's why 28 contractors went home to their families instead of going home in boxes. You make the hard choice to do it right, even when wrong would be easier. Riley was quiet for a moment. Then, Can I tell you something, Lieutenant? Every time I look through that scope, I see the math, the distance, the wind, the variables. But I also see the weight. Every shot I take carries consequences, for my team, for the mission, for the people on the other end of that rifle. That weight is why I choose precision, because I never want to carry more weight than absolutely necessary. Chen nodded slowly. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you exceptional. I'm just a soldier doing her job. No, Chen said, echoing Martinez's words. You're a soldier doing it right. There's a difference. 3 days later, Riley made her decision. She walked into Director Martinez's office and placed the folder on the desk. I'm honored by the offer, ma'am, but I'd like to stay in the field. The task force work, coordinating precision operations, leading joint teams, solving complex situations, that's where I can make the most difference right now. Martinez smiled. I hoped you'd say that. We need leaders in the field more than we need them behind desks. Consider the task force your permanent assignment. You'll lead operations across multiple theaters, working with the best operators from every branch. Thank you, ma'am. One more thing, Martinez said, pulling out another document. We're officially designating your tactical philosophy as Guardian Protocol. It'll be taught at advanced special operations schools across all branches. Precision over firepower. Minimum necessary force. Protect American lives while respecting the weight of every trigger pull. Riley felt something shift inside her. Her approach, the discipline she'd developed over years of training and missions, would now be taught to the next generation of operators. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say you'll keep doing what you do. Keep being the shot nobody sees coming. Keep being the guardian angel in the scope. Keep showing us how to win the right way. Yes, ma'am, I will. That night, Riley stood on the base observation deck, looking out over the mountains, thinking about the path that had led her here, from a young woman who'd enlisted wanting to serve, to a sniper who'd found her calling behind a rifle, to a leader developing doctrine that would shape American special operations. Emma Vasquez found her there, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Heard you turned down the promotion, Emma said, handing Riley a cup. Field work suits me better. You know you're basically a legend now, right? Guardian Protocol, the sniper who saves lives instead of just taking them. They're going to tell stories about you. Riley smiled. They already are. Might as well make them good stories. What's next? More missions, more teams, more chances to make the hard choice and do it right. Sounds like a hell of a career. It's not about the career, Riley said quietly. It's about the 7 Rangers I saved, the 28 contractors who went home alive, the operators I'll work with tomorrow and next week and next year. It's about being ready when someone needs the impossible shot, the perfect solution, the guardian angel they didn't know they had. Emma raised her coffee cup. To the guardian angel. Riley touched her cup to Emma's. To doing it right. Below them, the base continued its nightly rhythm, soldiers training, operators preparing, missions being planned, and somewhere in that orchestrated chaos, Riley Morgan, staff sergeant, sniper, leader, guardian angel, prepared for whatever came next. Because that was the job. That was who she was. The shot nobody saw coming. The difference between survival and catastrophe, the guardian in the scope, and her story was just beginning. Final CTA. If you believe that courage is measured not by the shots you take, but by the lives you protect, comment precision.